The new Godzilla versus King Kong movie came out. By all that is righteous, I want to watch it so bad. I don't care how silly. I love monster films. I watched the original one as a kid by complete accident. And what I mean by that was I was at my great grandma's place. I had to stay there for a little bit. Side note, she made. I'm not the biggest fan of eggs. I'm just not. And she did something. She made eggs for me. They were just plain eggs. Just scrambled eggs, and she put them on the plate by themselves, and she gave me some toast. And I've never had better eggs in my life. I don't know what she did. And I've spent my entire life trying to replicate these eggs. And like, like, she made them for kids, and there's something, what I remember is that she, like, kind of smiled when she, like, served me the eggs. And I was a bit confused. Like, I was just like, oh, maybe she's just happy for, like, feeding me eggs. Because okay, so my great grandmother, like, she's Mexican, and there is a language barrier. I never learned Spanish. I should have, and I know this story's going off somewhere, but I never learned Spanish. So there was already a language barrier. So she's asking me if I want some eggs. She's asking me, and I'm like, yeah, I could eat. I could go for some food. And me being a kid, I wanted to be nice. I didn't want to say no to my grandma. I didn't want to be like, oh, no, I don't like eggs, grandma. And I was just kind of like that. I just kind of ate whatever, because my mom was a bad cook, like a horrible cook. So I got used to just eating stuff I didn't like. So
These dogs been a problem for a while now.
Since the war started, soldier on the march, stop to rape a woman, strangle her, kill her man for a chuckle, even put
and so she makes these eggs for me, and they are like sweet, like, and I'm a huge fan of sugar. Like, I love sugar, but these, oh snap, oh, we already found them. Should probably finish my story, but these eggs are friggin' sweet. And I mean, like, good. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if she put sugar in them. I've tried putting sugar. Maybe it's something I should try again. But she did something. Maybe it was honey. Like, she did something to those eggs, and she turned them into, like, a treat. Best eggs I've ever had in my life. Best eggs ever. I've even replicated Gordon Ramsay eggs. I cook. And I'm no chef. I've worked in a kitchen. I've worked in a kitchen. I've worked my way up to sous chef. Unofficially. But those eggs that she made, I have never tasted anything like that since. It was freaking, like, yeah. It was the only time I ever had to stay with her. But anyways, there's like some sweet eggs that were like candy, essentially. But they were good. I ate the whole thing. She only gave me like one egg, though. And I was left wanting more, but I didn't really ask for it. She filled myself up on toast. But she had movies. And as a kid, I would go to Blockbuster a lot with my dad, and I'd pick up movies, and I got really into Godzilla. Like, any Godzilla film I could find. I watched them out of order. I didn't know better. I would just, it's like kind of being at a comic book store. You kind of just go in there, you pick up a comic of a hero, or, protagonist that you like, or, anti-hero, antagonist, and you just go from there, kind of like how you dive into anything. So that's how I was with Godzilla. Like, I just would pick up whatever movie case looked cool and did it. So when I saw
I'll be fine.
Godzilla versus King Kong, and this was after the Peter Jackson films. So this was after like Peter Jackson's King Kong, you know, the one with Jack Black. So that's the only King Kong I've seen as a kid, and then I've seen Godzilla, but I always pick the cool cases. So Godzilla, I never really saw the old Godzilla films where he was much smaller, and there was like the dude in the bodysuit. I never really got to see those. So this was probably the first old movie I'd ever seen. Because I had no idea. It was black and white, and I immediately wanted to turn it off. Because as a kid, you see something in black and white, no color, and you're like, I don't want to watch this. And, I was like, crap. But I was shy. I was a shy kid. And I knew, again, there's that language barrier between my grandma and, like, my great-grandma. There's nothing to do here. I got nothing to do. And I was a big nerd. I played video games. I wasn't going to go outside. And, like, what were you going to do outside? Like, seriously, what is there to do outside? Because, like, I don't know, use your imagination. I used to do that. That's probably what makes me a good DM. I used to pretend to play stuff all the freaking time. But, I don't know, I wasn't in the mood for that. I wanted to watch a movie. I wanted time to go by. I also was like, didn't know if I was allowed to go outside at the time. We'll use that as an excuse for now.
Griffin's nest.
So, I sit there and I watch the movie. I'm like, alright, I'm gonna watch it. It's already on, like, screw it. I'll just suffer through it. So I begin watching the movie. And lo and behold, I start to like it. As a kid. And this probably awoken something in me that, like, dwelled for years, because I hadn't seen another old movie for a long time. And it's not that I mean, you could say I avoided them, but I don't think I avoided them. It's just that I never took the time to go looking for them. I was always, like, if I watched a movie, it would always be, like, something that was out currently, and there's so much content to consume. So, yeah, I continued to watch the movie, and I was like, I don't know. I wasn't impressed at first, because when Godzilla first shows up, they scale it, right? Because the dude playing Godzilla is in a suit, and he's like, he's walking around and he's doing his thing, and like the set is smaller. It's a mini set. It's like built, so it's like they're using like toys, or they're using figurines, they're using crafted things. And they set it to scale to the dude, and I'm watching it. I'm like, as a kid, I'm over here just being like, they're using toys. Like, I'm very much just like, this movie is garbage, because I've already seen CGI. I saw Peter Jackson's Godzilla, and that was the coolest thing, because Godzilla fought... I mean, not Godzilla. King Kong. King Kong fought T-Rexes, and the bugs and stuff looked real, and, and so, I've seen them using toys, not understanding, visual effects weren't a thing for them at the time. But then, I continue watching, and King Kong comes on screen, and they're talking about both these guys have like their own unique abilities and stuff like that, and we're just caught in the crossfires. And I start getting into it. You know, I start really getting into it. You know, they set up ways to like beat Godzilla. They have these like awesome looking ray guns that they're gonna shoot at Godzilla, and it doesn't work. He starts charging up his
Let's go.
you know, his flamethrower or his laser beam. What's it called? Ah, I can't remember. His projectile attack, and and he straight up, you know, he takes out anyone that comes after him. And so I'm over here learning about it because I think that, you know, this is the first time they're doing this, like, this mashup, because King Kong's like American, and so they're explaining Godzilla's abilities. And I've seen at this point I've seen my share of Godzilla films, and I'm watching it and I'm thinking like, oh, you know, I didn't really know that as a kid. And that's where they hooked me, when they start explaining the stuff, and they're doing exposition. You know, there's just the humans are just expositions for the monsters, because the monsters aren't gonna, like, you know, they're not, Godzilla's not gonna walk up to King Kong and be like, all right, so like I'm from radiation, and I'm, you know, I can I can shoot out radioactive lasers from my mouth, so don't mind, you know. And King Kong's over here just being like, well, I'm a big old monkey, but, or gorilla.
Come on.
And so in the film, they did something with King Kong that was different. They he gets powered up by fire. Like, or no, I think it was lightning. I think it was like lightning. King Kong gets powered up by lightning. Godzilla gets powered up by fire. And I don't know if they did this to put stakes in the film, or like they did it as an excuse to power up King Kong. And I just remember seeing that as a kid, and it was the first time like I was a nerd. You know, I watched Star Wars and all this other stuff. So it was the first time like I saw something and they did something. I was like, that's not how it works. That's not how the Force works. And I was like, what? Godzilla gets powered up by fire? And they're like, yeah, that's why he likes to blow up stuff, because he gets powered up by the flames. And Godzilla gets powered up by lightning. Like, he gets struck by lightning, and he's like, dum 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 dum. You know, he's ready to fight, and it just made no sense with me as a kid. But the film, the way, you know, older films are just, they're built different. You know, they hit different, and
I'm ready. No big good.
you know, I never got the plant. I never got the plant for the Griffin. Huh. Alright, we'll keep going. So, I'm getting into the film, and I'm learning about Godzilla, and I'm learning about King Kong. Apparently, they got new power-ups, and essentially, dude, Vesemir can run. Oh, yeah, if you jump, you can reset your thing.
A stream, amber waves of grain.
Are they just gonna...
Come on. We could.
Huh.
Tell me.
I guess I just have the bait. That's tripping me out. What the heck? And now I don't care about the miniature set. I don't care about the fact that, like, things don't look as realistic. You know, I'm getting into the practical effects. I'm getting into, like, the stakes that are there, the story that's being told. It's all mattering to me now. I am, you know, and this is what I truly believe. Like, helped me get into movies as a kid. That and just watching a ton of Star Wars. Both those huge influences on my life. But I've I've watched a lot of movies and I've forgotten a lot of things about movies. I've forgotten a lot of things about the things that movies I've watched. But I've never really forgotten that old, the King Kong versus Godzilla. And I think there's more than just one. For some reason, I believe that there's not just the... Oh man, what a... there's a second one, they have a rematch, but also at the same time, I believe that was it. Because if you guys have ever seen Watch Mojo or stuff like that, they talk about this kind of stuff, and they talk about the ending, and how there's two different endings, one for the American version and one for the Japanese or whatever audience. And I think my ending, I don't know, I always saw it as ambiguous. I always saw it as because they fight, they both do their power-up things, Godzilla gets the edge, and then a storm starts creeping up. So Godzilla gets the edge because he's blowing things up and things are getting destroyed. And I think they... Oh, I'm going to punch this Griffith to death. And I think they do something with... they set up a trap. Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay, so before the big fight scene happens, they're trying to deal with King Kong. So they try to deal with Godzilla, and then they learn if there's a fire, Godzilla's gonna just get stronger, and we're just gonna piss him off. So they try to capture King Kong, and they try to use electricity to capture him, telephone wires or whatever, this big old net that will electrify him. And then he's just yeah, give me more, and they're and Vesemir over here just being yo, get good. And so when they fight, they fall off the side of it's not even a cliff. They just, because they're fighting, and then they fall into the water. They fall into the ocean. And when they fall into the ocean, they kind of disappear. And they're I think it was Godzilla goes missing and King Kong goes missing. That's what it was. Because I remember being kind of sad that King Kong was missing. And I was did Godzilla win? But it was King Kong disappears under the water. And I'm oh snap, he drowned. And then Godzilla just walks away. And so, it can be read as oh, Godzilla won. But then they're we can't find King Kong's body. We've searched and searched and there's no sign of his body. And I'm what does that even mean? And it makes sense. You can't have them both just fall into the water and then walk away from each other. And so, one of them had to disappear. Or both of them could have disappeared into the water. And it's just where'd they go? They hadn't... So, to me, the winner, it almost felt like a tie. Which, once that happened, the ending of that film made me just be what the heck? What was that about? But it left a lasting impression. I remember more things from that film than I find myself thinking about that film from time to time for no reason. It left an impression. It was the first real old film, and every time I watch an old film, for whatever reason, I think, I'm not saying all old films are good, but I have this impression that movies are made different now, and that I will only like newer films. And so going and wanting to watch an old film feels like it will, I don't know, that I won't like it, I won't appreciate it the same. Like I just feel like for the longest time I believed that old films were just not going to be as good because they didn't have the technology to do it. I just believed that. I was naive. And then I started picking up some old films. And I started watching them, which is funny because I grew up watching Star Wars, which came out way before. I said way before, but like it came out before I was born. It was a movie that came out when my dad was a kid, and so I loved watching. Empire is my favorite movie, and I guess I didn't consider that to be old or like because it just looks so crazy. With the Death Stars and special effects. But no, every time I watch an older film, I am so impressed. Like, I fall in love with it. I enjoy it. There is so much creative work and talent put into these films. I feel like they should be better.
Whoa there, Roach.
It really should be like shouldn't be taken for granted. Like you shouldn't knock down an old film because it's old. You should always watch it. Yeah, it was made in a different time, but it's a time where creativity was so encouraged, and they went out of their way to do such things. And I think there can be something said about like special effects taking away that movie magic that you can feel when you're watching a film. I don't, I think special effects are great and I love them, and I'm about to start to learn to do them myself. But you look at a film, you look at Lord of the Rings where they had these giant miniatures, and you watch it, and that's why people are like, oh, practical effects this, and I think CGI is good. I think visual effects are. Oh my gosh, these wolves are a pandemic. Or an epidemic. I don't know. They literally showed up, murdered this lady. She's dead forever now. Like, she's not coming back. Wow. That was crazy. I don't know. I think visual effects, like, they're just so good. A good visual effects, you won't notice that it's there. And, like, people, they see bad CGI and they hate on CGI, and, like, you take for granted all the work that gets put in to everything that happens in the film,
Lost your key.
Like, the standards and things get to a certain point where you're just like, why are you so crucial on this? Like, look, I don't know. Look at what they try to accomplish. Not entirely sure where I was going with that, but essentially all that I'm saying is I like that old King Kong versus Godzilla film. Go watch some classic movies. They're fun. They're good. If you watch the right ones, and I'm excited. I'm gonna go watch Godzilla versus King Kong right now.